In this video, we're looking at palettes again because we know how to create ourselves a palette if we've got colors that we want to record and just keep as a set. We've worked our way through that. But what happens if you don't have colors? If you've got a situation that you want colors for, but you currently don't have the colors saved and you don't know what colors to put and where to find them. Now, as an example, I'm going to show you this Delicious Monster palette, which I literally created from a photograph of a delicious monster. And Procreate does give us that option. So that is a possibility. If you tap on plus to create a new palette, it gives you these options. Create new palette, which just gives you the little storage receptacles to tap into. New from camera, which is a possibility. If you take a photograph and it'll help you create from there. New from file, if you've got an existing file or you've found a palette online which works for you. Or new from photos. So new from photos is the most useful one in my opinion. Here we go. I have a delicious monster saved. And if you look here, this is the palette from that image. So let me just add in the image here, insert a photo, and then you'll be able to see what exactly we're looking at. So if I just move that over, there is the palette from the image. And you can see it's got a nice range of browns. Can you believe so many different browns in that ball of moss? And then it's got all the range of greens. Okay, so as you can see, that is pretty overwhelming. We've got deep browns all the way through to a very pale buffy brown, but quite useful to have that lineup. And then we've got the variety of various different browns and grays and so on in between, and then all the different greens. The thing is, it's a lot. So what do you do with them all? And what I sometimes do is I live with a palette like this. So you can see a lot of these colors actually are similar to some of these colors that I have in my chinos range. Sometimes I look at them and think, oh, those look quite useful. I think I'll keep this around for a while and just see where I can add those into my existing palettes. But the other thing that I do is I create my own palette from the photograph, and I do it using what I call the power of 3. So let's just go and create ourselves a new palette, and we'll call it power of 3. And what I do is I go to each section of the photograph, and I go to the lightest part, the darkest part, and a middle part. So on the green, I would go into this darkest part and just find the darkest bit and then tap. That's my darkest green. Then I'll go and find myself some sort of mid-green. What does it look like? We'll move around and find what it is. Let's go with that. That's my mid-green. And then the very palest. Let's go for this. That's the palest green. And I stick with that. I might go looking in this specific example, because these leaves are pretty shiny, I might go and look for one more thing, which is the reflection. So I might go and look for the whitest, shiniest reflection and see if that is very different from where I was before. Okay, so let's pick this up and say we might take that gray and say, okay, that's our reflection gray. Then I would go in and I would look at the moss ball and say, all right, I want the darkest and a medium color and the lightest. So I'll tap in here and find the darkest, but not black. So I'm going to look for a deep brown. So you just move around until you find something pretty deep. Okay, that's my darkest brown. Then I want a sort of mid-brown color. This will do the trick. Move it around a little bit. There we go. That's a sort of mid-brown. And then the palest sort of buffy color here. That's my palest brown. And that is literally how I do it. And then I can use those colors in tandem with my shadowing techniques of using the navy blue, French ultramarine, and I can create pretty much anything that I want to. So that's how I end up with a much simpler palette. So sometimes I will go and create myself a palette like this and then choose some random things from it, or kind of use it to augment palettes that I already have because they're feeling a bit stale or something like that. But when I get a palette like this, which is absolutely overwhelming, I do the power of 3. Lightest, darkest, medium. lightest, darkest, medium, and maybe if there's a very shiny part, I'll pick up the color that's used for the reflection. And that is how I create a palette from a photograph using the power of 3.